This style of music is more or less a genre, and more so a trend, that defined an era and even continues to stay relevant to this day. In the past 2 decades before the 80s, musicians were using synthesizers to help them write and perform their songs, but in the 80s something new was happening. Musicians were starting to use drum machines and synthesizers exclusively for their tracks. In the years prior, Brian Eno and Kraftwerk paved the way with great resistance. But by the 80s, this technique was becoming mainstream. Artists like Depeche Mode, New Order, Eurythmics, Duran Duran, Japan, and Phil Collins all took these ideas to the next level, to the point where you've seen artists that were already in the game for a while adopting these sounds as well. The sounds of this era are so bouncy and intoxicatingly funky, and have not grown yet tired to the masses' ears. The creation of Detroit techno and Chicago's house music was directly influenced by this era of music. This video will hopefully teach you a little bit more about how to achieve the 80s sound in your music productions. You'll get to see instrument playing techniques and also mixing strategies like gated snares to help achieve that 80s sound. If you want to hear the full song that you hear in this intro, it'll be on my Bandcamp page. Link is in the description of this video. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment if you have a question, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Hey, welcome to the Ableton session for this song. For this track, I chose to work in 127 BPM. And I started out my ideas with these chords. It took a second to figure out what I was going to play, but I knew I wanted to have something feeling kind of inspirational and uplifting. I'm just kind of messing around here, trying to figure out the tone of the instrument that I want. In my head, I was kind of trying to mimic those soundtracks of movies and TV shows of the 80s, like Scarface and Miami Vice. You can do this in Ableton with stock sounds, by the way. This synth that you hear is just a preset that comes in Ableton already. To get things sounding more locked in the era of the 80s. You can't just have a super square 4-bar loop or an 8-bar loop. You kind of have to take your chord progression places. So after it loops twice, it goes to this last final chord, which indicates a build-up to a chorus. Once I've figured that out, I moved on to find a secondary chord progression that I'm going to use as the chorus. But I could have always flipped that around and called the last progression a chorus and this new one a verse. I don't know. It was just a choice. Another 80s trick, for mixing at least, or sound design, would be popping a chorus effect on your instrument. You get some extra movement and width out of that. I think that's a common theme with 80s music, width. I've put a saturator effect on this synth playing these chords. It's just slightly adding some warmth, and then a utility effect turning the bass frequencies mono below 150 hertz. Yep. And also slightly turning the signal down. Just gonna slightly scoop the mids and roll off some of the highs. We're just bringing the quality back down to 80s standards, I guess, compared to the clean signal of today. Since we're working in clean Ableton, I wanted to add some hiss to this. So I used this erosion effect in order to gently add in some high fizzle hiss. Next we go in for a little bit of decapitator to add some saturation to it all for a second time. Alright, by this point it was time to add a secondary section that I was talking about earlier. In my case, I was thinking of trying to change up the rhythm a little bit for this section. Now it was time to look for some drums, and that's an important step when trying to nail an 80s style sound. You can go for a real drum kit kind of sound, but a thing people were doing in the 80s that was happening for the first time ever was the use of drum machines as a aid to write songs and even use them in the final studio version of a song. I've duplicated my drums and split the midis apart so I can control the kick separately from the snare based on the channel. I apply reverb directly onto the snare channel and begin doing a gated snare effect, combining a snare with a reverb and a gate. The idea is making this narrow snare hit as a way wider object in the drum mix. I use the 1176 for parallel compression and this decapitator to add some saturation after, just for warmth. I was happy with the drum mix for now, so I moved on to the bass. I was going to do a sort of bouncy, stabby bass sound. Kind of like a Juno, maybe? I don't know what I'm talking about. Jupiter? Eesh. Don't quote me. I don't know anything about synths. I just work here. I guess I wasn't happy with the low end that was coming from just this bass alone, so I duplicated the MIDI to a new channel, which was playing a sine bass. It was time to add the next layer, which was going to be just some sort of synth pad with a delay on it. I wanted it to be kind of chimey. It's meant to just outline the chords more and give the whole track a little bit more movement, making it sound upbeat. It sounded a little too dry, so I put a delay effect on there. It kind of changed what I was aiming to play. RC20 for flavor here. The root notes were sounding a little thin to me, so I added a 80's brass synth to reinforce that. Here you can see me messing around with the redux effect, just trying to filter this bass sound a little bit more. Don't mind me going back to mess around with the drum gate again. By this point, I feel like I had enough layers to where I could start arranging this track. What I like to do differently than a lot of other producers is record a loose arrangement on this screen of Ableton first, before going into the arrangement screen and fine-tuning it. I really wanted to make this instrumental hit now, so I started working on the mastering chain for a second, using 2 limiters and a Pultec EQ. I think also a Kramer tape emulation kind of thing too. I don't really know why I do what I do with these limiters, but it somehow works for me. The first one kind of catches the transients and the second one boosts the volume. How could it be an 80's track without some sort of weird synth solo? Man, I was almost done with the track too. I was gonna leave it plain Jane, but I had to doctor it up here. opt for the most simple idea. I'm just working these transitions here now with some reverse cymbals and normal crashes. At some point I added a drum snare build up too. You can do a wind sound out of an analog effect, or the analog instrument. You just put the analog instrument on and turn off all the oscillators except for the noise, and then you can just automate different parameters and get movement out of it. At this point, I was inspired by Starships. We Built This City, where they have that little section of vocals in that bridge. Yeah, so I just grabbed some News Chopper audio from the 80s, sent it into a vocoder, and hoped for the best. Well, I mean, I got some Redux effect on it too, and making it sound reduced in quality, basically. I snuck these effects hits in there too when you weren't looking. This one has an echo on it. You'll hear me play with it. It's automation in a second. And then I also added a sub hit, like some sort of cinematic whooshing effect. My favorite transition and build up into the final chorus is coming up. I did that by making a cluster chord on the 80s brass and doing some volume swells along with pitch bending. This is the meat and potatoes of this track. I did mess around with it a little bit more off camera, but this was me creating the original idea. If you like this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to this channel, and comment if you have a suggestion of what you'd like to see me make next.